Good day. I'm Melodie de Jager from the BabyGym Institute, and it's wonderful to have this opportunity to talk to you. It would have been wonderful to do it in person so we can have a conversation, but this time it's not that practical, so we'll do it this way. We'll have a one-way conversation, but I hope in your hearts and your minds there is a conversation going, and that we can continue this conversation over a period of time. I am concerned about what's happening in terms of relationships. I'm concerned about the seemingly callousness that sometimes enters into pregnancy, the first birth, the first couple of years, and subsequently the tremendous increase in autism, children with learning and behavioral problems, which obviously affects what happens in the world there after school as well. So as a mom of 3 children, and my children being young adults, married, and about to start their families, and working with families over a period of more than 30 years, I've come to feel that there's a lack of mothering. There often is a lack of mothering because of challenging relationships between young people and their mothers. And when a lady falls pregnant, a young girl falls pregnant, and due to the changes in culture and over time, and the distance between people, the natural way that people used to educate their young and prepare them for motherhood, it seems that it's very different nowadays. And that Google and social media are more, or taking up the parental role way more than in the olden days. Oh, there, I just gave away my age when we talk about the olden days. But in your position as healthcare professionals, and in your position where you work directly with pregnant people, pregnant mothers, pregnant families, during birth, some of you fortunate to be present at birth, and guiding young parents during the first couple of years, you are such powerful people. And your power lies in working with the vulnerable of the most vulnerable, who are babies, and the second most vulnerable, which is the young mum. So with all of this as background, I started doing research for a training manual, but whenever I do that, I always go in isolation for a period of time, just so I can really think deep and hard and produce something that I really hope would be of value for other people. And while I was writing a training manual, all of a sudden a book popped into my head. That was very funny because I have never in my life written a novel, and a novel popped into my mind. And it was the novel, I didn't know it was going to be a novel. It was just a story, and I thought, maybe this is just a something. But I stopped writing the training manual, and in my head I started hearing Zani, a very obsessive compulsive list maker, very hyper young lady, and the absolute dish of a man called Jake. A story started unfolding of them being together for a couple of years, and Zani decided that it was time to have a baby. And as they were cuddling up on a Sunday evening, as we do, Zani started saying that she started feeling that she's got this bit of an emptiness inside of her, and she started voicing it to her husband by saying, I've got this empty feeling. And he said, maybe you need chocolate, maybe you need sushi, maybe you need a holiday, maybe you need a change of job. And then she got it. She wanted to be a mom. She didn't want to be a mom. She said, I want a baby. And Jake said, what? Baby cat, baby dog, baby what? Pig? And she said, no, a baby. And from there, a story unfolded. That was more than 4 years ago. And it was just about the time when my middle son and daughter-in-law got married. And I was writing this as a story to my own children. Because whenever I write for a specific audience. I talk to people. I can't just write. I'm not a natural author. And I started talking to them like I would like to talk to my own children, or that maybe other young people may want an older person to talk to them. What makes me qualified to talk about this? Absolutely nothing other than I'm a mom, but I'm also an educator, and I've specialized in the development of babies. Well, focusing first on the development of children who battle in school. Why are they battling in school so much? And then doing research backwards to figure out what are the crucial ingredients that enable a child to learn with ease, because there's such a strong relationship between your ability to learn and your self-esteem. And in doing the research, it went back further and further. Did research into the preschool years and realized, but if the milestones weren't rich in sequence, it affects the children's performance in the preschool and their ability to feel good about themselves, develop physically, emotionally, and socially. So the research went back. And I looked at the work of Michelle O'Dowd, thank you to Tina Atti, and she introduced me to the world of Michelle O'Dowd and many other authors. And that, through them, got to read and reread the work of Eugene Marais, who said, where birth pain is feeble, where birth pain is negligible, mother love is feeble. And when I read that line, I knew I've just read something that is fundamental to the development of the human being and to the quality of life for us as a human species. And that we really need to look at the years, the pregnancy, and we really need to look at birth. No, as childbirth educators, you've been doing that for many, many years. I'm a novice in this. And for that reason, I'm not saying everything that I'm saying is the truth. I'm just a voice, I'm not the voice. So a story unfolded, and it really unfolded, it wasn't thought out, where different characters appeared in the story to give different voices, a voice of wisdom, through a childless coffee shop owner called V, and her journey through multiple miscarriages and the inability to have children in the end, and her way of making sense of that, and in her role as a woman without being a mother. Story is obviously about Zani and her journey with herself, her journey through her challenges as a young child herself, her lack of self-esteem, the sibling rivalry. You know how some people grow up feeling absolutely inadequate? Well, don't we all in a way? But her whole grappling with coming to terms with growing up and the responsibility of being a mom in time, but also trying to echo through this story the challenges of young people these days who are inundated with information, social media, Google, everybody's an expert about everything. Who must they listen to? The information is so contradictory, and without the voice of instinct, and without the voice of wisdom through our cultural upbringing and our cultural conditioning to a certain extent, it's very difficult for young people to know what to think about. And ultimately, they're going to make that choice on their own. But what are the things they need to consider? So the story unfolded in a way where as the pregnancy progressed, the battling to fall pregnant, the falling pregnant and then losing the pregnancy, the challenges around that, emotionally, physically, between husband and wife, falling pregnant, staying pregnant but being anxious, because Zani's very anxious. She actually makes you very unrestful when you read Zani. And then how her body starts changing, and the questions. Should I consult a medical practitioner or should I go for a midwife? And the conversations around that. And then the choice she made, and why did she make that choice with Jake? And then going, as the pregnancy progresses, a lot of information about what happens at different parts of a baby's development, so the typical scientific information, which in the layout of the book, we've changed the layout. So every time we talk about scientific information, it's in a different font. So if you don't want the information, you want the story, you only read a certain font. But if you want the whole thing, you read both fonts, and you get the story with the scientific information that neuroscience is pointing towards, that medical science is pointing towards. Done my utmost to really use very credible sources for the information. But as information changes on a daily rate or a daily basis, I'm sure a lot of new things can be included. But this is the Zani story. It's not the right story, it's Zani's story. And then as the pregnancy progresses and Zani starts attending antenatal classes, and she meets this young girl called Sky. So Zani is a typical young girl, believes everything that anybody says, especially if it's on social media or on Google. And then she meets at Tina Atti's antenatal classes. So there's a huge play between what's real and what's not real in the book. But at an antenatal class, she meets this young girl called Sky and her partner Seth, real earth child. And Sky doesn't go for checkups, and she's not planning to have any kind of a birth plan or child birth care center or anything like that. Her mom's circle of friends would support her during birth. She's not going to have any disposable nappies. She's going to have real cotton nappies. She's going to wash it by hand because she's very environmentally conscious. And then that unlikely friendship that pops up between Sky and Zani, and how, in a way, it's the play between nature, or natural, and medical science, and how it pulls young people apart in a way to figure out what is the right thing to do. Then Zani's husband Jake can't attend the first scan, and the whole emotional hoo-ha around that, which also briefly looks at the relationship between the developing mom and the developing dad, and their challenges and their different perceptions and the different emotional journeys. Jake he's a catch. So he always brings some form of stability and maturity into the relationship, which is really helpful and made the writing much easier. And then all the way towards a very, very pivotal Sunday lunch when Zani and Jake visits Sky and Seth in their garden. The pivotal part of this book is actually the conversation between Zani, Jake, Seth and Sky about the birth process and birth options and the role of pain very specifically, and why we do our utmost to avoid pain, and how incredibly pain is during but during the birth process, according to the research of Eugene Murray and other people. Because as Eugene Murray says, where nature follows, or instinct follows a very specific pathway, and if you skip any of the stages of instinct, and in mother instinct, birth pain or labor pains is very much a part of the whole process. It was a very important step in the process of eliciting or stimulating mother love. And then the pros and the cons of that. This is a novel called 1+1=3. And the nifty title was the product of my daughter Cosette's wonderful creativity. And because that's really what this book is about. 1+1, and we end up being 3 and not 2. So the story ends with Zani progressing from an obsessive-compulsive, neurotic, anxiety-ridden insecure young girl. And she blossoms due to her openness to learn and to grow, her openness to listen, her openness to be guided, but also her openness to the messages from her own body, to move her into a mature, warm young girl, ready to be a mother. Maybe, ladies, you want to help us at the BabyGym Institute to get a message out where we encourage young mothers to think of the different things that impact on the quality of their baby's life and the choices they make, and how the choices that we make impact long-term the quality of our child's life. I sincerely hope you enjoy this unedited copy. Thank you.